Alrighty, Vanessa. So looks like you're it's time for the reference besides, but it just doesn't feel right. Okay, so let's take a look at this reference. So I have a program that I like to use, and it's called Quadro. Right there. So you can pull up a web image or your local image. So pull up this web image. Put that right there. Okay. I'm gonna right click it, always on top. So now I can go over here, place that over there, right? So we're gonna take a look at this. So let's start with the head. The head and the body should be connected by now. So I'm gonna get the body, send it up, and then I'm gonna go to the top one and merge it down. And okay. And then I'm gonna Dynamesh it. Okay. I've heard my computer stop working so hard, so I'm assuming these two are together. And it looks so. So what I'm going to do first is kick this down to 256. So that never happens again. Okay, so we have symmetry on. And I'm going to redynamesh it. Okay, so that's good. Alright, so first things first on this guy. Looks like well, let's fix these feet. So I like to use this screen as reference. And you can see right here I have this flat line, right? So I'm going to make my anchor point where the bone would naturally be. And then I would do that, right? And so now I want to flatten the bottom. So I'm going to use my move. And I'm going to flatten the bottom. Okay. Alternatively, you can use the clip curve, right? And then I'm going to give a little bit of depth, right? So it's not so flat. And then redynamesh it. So looks like we pretty much got everything almost that we need. We'll have to fix this hand, but I don't think I'm going to be redynameshing anymore because that's taking way too long. So if we take a look at his body, it's a little too thick. So I'm going to use my move brush, and I'm just going to thin him up a whole lot. Then I'm going to give this curve into the front of the leg right here. Hopefully you see that. And flatten that area. So the next problem that we have is that this is too angular, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my form soft brush, add a bit more meat, dig it in, build it up, dig it in, build it up, smooth it out. And then it's a little bit flatter, right? You still see there's a little peak there. So what I'm going to do is go to my trim dynamic, and I'm going to flatten that out a bit, smooth it out, flatten it out, smooth it out, right? So the next thing I'm going to do is work on this butt. So the muscle comes out from there and wraps around, right? And then we have this indentation right here. And then just smooth it out. Okay. And so this part right here is more flat. So I'm going to go trim dynamic. Just flatten that out. Okay. And the next thing is his, here's a little bit too wide. So I'm going to bring that in. Okay. deflate this finger real quick because it's bothering me. Smooth it out, inflate it, smooth it out, inflate it. Just get some type of meat there, right? That was just a little OCD thing. Don't worry about that. Okay, so next thing I'm gonna do is mark out the scapula. Right, so that's where it is, and then I'm gonna flatten that out using the trim dynamic, big brush size, and just flatten that out. Right, and then smooth up here at the top. So I'm gonna solo this body out so we can take a look at it. Okay, so the head is a bit too pointy for my taste. This is okay. I mean, I like that you have it in the back third. That's good. Fine. Get that out, right? Okay. So the next thing I'm gonna do is pull back this cheek a bit because it's a little too forward. I'm gonna add these eyes in here. And if you want to give him some eyelids, you can sculpt over it, right? So now we have eyelids. And then use our damp standard, mark it in. Press Alt, and now we're getting our eyelid. Right? And we're just sketching stuff in. It doesn't need to look amazing. This guy's got a bit larger eye, but the same rules apply, you know. Just hold Alt with the damn standard, pull that out. And so your bottom lid goes underneath your top lid. So mark that out. That's going to go over, and this is going to go under. And just smooth out the transition. And next thing I'm going to look at, I'm not worried. Smooth that out. Draw that over again. Let those lines connect. Okay. So first thing I'm looking at is right here. This distance with the eye doesn't happen, right? So I'm going to pull that back. Now what I'm going to try to do is get this eyelid equal distance. So you see how it swoops in and comes back out? So now my goal is make sure I can get this eye and have it equal distance around the eye. You can smooth it out because you're going to be redoing that eyelid plenty of times, right? So, and then here, same thing. And top eyelid goes over, bottom eyelid goes in. So now we have eyelids, right? So there's a bunch of wonky stuff going on. You can just smooth it out. We're good, okay? So the next thing I'm gonna do is put a depression all the way around the eyes. Because that's actually what's happening in real life. That. And then I'm going to build up the brow, smooth that out on the edges because I don't want it going all the way across. Right? And dig that in a bit. And smooth. Okay. Now we have some eyelids that we can build this mask upon, right? And so I can go in here and now I can shape this eye however I want. You know, it looks a little droopy. Make it more cat-like if I need to. Okay. And so next thing I'm going to fix is this trap area. Okay. So what I'm going to do is put in this space that you're missing in between the trap and the collarbone. And smoothing out the transition. And so then we have the acromion process right here, which your entire shoulder is going to come from, right? And where your trap ends. Okay. Then we're going to fill this in. With the shoulder, smooth out the transition. Okay. And the back of the shoulder connects to the end of the clavicle. Right? So was it the anterior deltoid? Connects to the tip of the clavicle right here. And so now we know we can dig this in because this is where the trap and the tricep are going to meet. And that's where the armpit's going to be, and the separation of the chest from the lat and the shoulder, right? So if you want to separate the shoulder, which we do, from the pec, right there. Okay. Now all these forms you do need to hit. I know it looks cartoony or stylized, whatever you want to call it. But the reason it looks so good is because his foundations are there, because he can play with those shapes of realism. So what we're doing is kind of putting in realistic shapes and then altering them afterwards, if that makes sense. Now I'm going to separate the lat from the ribs. And this goes all the way around to the back, to the back of your hips. Okay. So now I'm going to use my trim dynamic. I'm just going to knock this down and smooth it out. Right, and so for the nose, if we just want to put some nostrils in there, we just use our standard brush or form soft brush, do it once, and then press 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Right? And it'll just repeat that stroke. And then we can do it again. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Right? Then we can use our damp standard and mark in the nostril. And then we can size it from there. Right? So now we're looking at this and you can see how weirdly shaped the mouth is because it's a barrel of the mouth. That makes a bit more sense. And now we can push this back. Okay. Then we can put the depressions in the forehead. So we can separate the forehead from the brow. Right, so just a V backwards and then smooth it out. And then we have this line where the edge of the forehead comes in. And then we can fill this in. All right. Smooth it out. Alrighty, so just smoothing some things because they're a little bit too strong. But what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna use my move brush, and what I'm looking for is kind of flat right here, then goes in where the lats come in, and then at the small of the back, it's just a straight line. Alright, so I'm gonna raise this up so his hips aren't so long. And fix some of these shapes back here. Smooth it out. Add some lines because he does have a V pattern going on, right? And so now we can see the shape of his arms are pretty thin. So I'm gonna use my move brush, separate the shoulder from the brachialis. Look at it from this angle. Make sure my triceps in there. And then we can see how this is all wobbly, right? So I'm gonna fix that. Smooth it out. Okay, and then what I'm looking for is this hit right here, where the brachialis goes into the forearm. And then this curve right here just needs to be flattened a bit. In this hand, we just move it all down. What will be smarter is if we mask it off, feather it, invert it, and rotate. Oh, a little bit too much. So right there. And then we rotate. Okay. So I'm just going down the arm, blocking in shapes. So pit of the bicep, all the way down the forearm to the wrist. And then here, I'm going to use my damn standard, marking my pads of my fingers. Okay. And then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to start fixing this up. So just going to pull this straight back, smooth it out. Not worried about any of the topology right now. What I want is get this masked. I want to get it rotated out, right? Because there's now enough space between these fingers. Which is the reason that Dynamesh is messing it up for you, right? So this guy I'm going to pull and rotate a bit. Same with this guy. Invert. Rotate, lengthen with W, grabbing the last anchor point, right? And that. And now I'm going to put the thumb in. So I'm going to grab this. There we go, thumb. Okay. Then I'm going to grab my inflate brush. and make sure that these shapes are pretty consistent. Right, so nothing's ballooning too much. Now I got my shape, got my pre-Dynamesh. And we might have it connect again on the ring finger and the pinky. We'll see. If so, we can move that out a bit more. Alright, so it worked. Oh, we're good. So if we take a look at this hand, you can see that this part, this knuckle, is off center. Right? It looks like it's broken. So what I'm going to do is go to the other side, make sure that's there. And so now that we kind of have our hand somewhat shaped out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting in the knuckles. So I'm going to press Form Soft, or use Form Soft brush, and add in my knuckles, and then the depressions for each one, right? Press 1, 1, 1, so I can repeat that stroke. 1, 1, and I'm not worried about how wonky it is right now. I can fix it later. And okay. So now what I need to do is I need to flatten this part. I need to grab the thumb because it's a little too flat. And I'm going to use my mask lasso so I can get a more organic selection. Invert it, feather it, and I'm going to rotate it down, bring it down as well. Okay. Then smooth out the transition. Okay, move this down. It's a little too high. Now we can flatten that out. Right, so you can see why I wasn't worried about how wonky it was. So now the next thing we need to do is put in the pads underneath the hands. Right? And then from here, what the problem is that there's no webbing in between these fingers. Right? So what I'm going to do is make sure my shapes are correct first. And then Form Soft brush. I'm going to dig in. Smooth it out. Right? And you can carry that depression. And if it's not enough, you can pull it out. But don't pull it out from the center in between each finger. Pull it out from the bottom of each finger. So here, right? And then what I'm going to do now is make sure that each finger is at least consistent in shape. So what I like to do is grab my move brush and start pulling down these fingernails. Right? Now at least we got to start. So now the next thing we got to do is make sure that all the fingernails are the same thickness, right? So I kind of really like the thickness of this middle finger, but add a little bit more meat to the tip though. Now that makes a bit more sense. And then start doing each pad. Now that makes much more sense. Then we're going to do each knuckle, even out the form, smooth it out, and there we go. Okay. And it's good to make these sounds when you're doing it. It really helps. So there we go. So the next one, move this up. It's obviously too thick. I could spend about 3-4 hours on the finger. I mean the hand alone. And I would spend the same amount of time that you spend creating the face, that you spend the same amount of time sculpting your hands. Okay? Because they're just as important, they're just as expressive, and they tell the story just as much as any facial expression does. And so now I'm going to get this pad for the thumb, just sketching it in, depression in the center of the hand. Then there's this pad right here, then the wrist, and smooth it all out. Okay. Now we're going to fix his thumb before we move on. It's a little broken. I at least like to have the fingers pointing the right way. I don't want it broken before I move on. So we're just missing that shape right there where the comes out from the knuckle. What I am going to do is, I don't like that selection. A little bit better right there. I'm going to grab this, extend it, and bring it down a bit, just so I can get a little bit more natural of a pose. It makes more sense. So I'm going to Dynameshes, wait for it to calculate. Okay. What I would like to do is rotate this finger a bit, so that's what's throwing me off a bit. It's too long. But we can just move the knuckle up a bit, it makes more sense. And we just need a little bit more length here and a little bit more meat at the tip of the finger. And clear separation. Yep. So real quickly, we just pretty much got our fingers, right? So we're going to start marking in some pads with an appropriate brush size. And I'm just eyeballing this. But generally, the first pad is long, then it's shorter, and then it's shorter. But you can look at your own hand, figure all this out. And then marks across here. So you can see how this finger is going out this way. All the fingers should be curving towards the middle finger. The middle finger is the only one that should be straight. Okay. And then now what we need to do is rotate this in and beef out the outside. And you see I didn't spend a lot of time putting in my knuckles and all the other stuff because I knew this was going to be a lot of changes in here. All right, so now we can look at the palm here and we can make our adjustments, right? So that's much better. Right, so now the elbow's poking out a bit too much. So we're going to pop that back in. Move this about. And so you see how it swoops in and then it comes back out. What we want is a little bit more consistency. That, right? So that way our shapes don't just melt into each other. There's a clear separation between the two. Right? So your bicep's going to come from your armpit. So come out right here. Right, so you see what you had, right? You see the posturing, see the rhythm that we're getting. Just let me show you this real quick. So what I wanted was more beef here, but it was kind of coming out the way that I wanted it, but the hip wasn't leaning the way that I wanted it either. So by pulling that in, it was giving me more of that angle I'm looking for on the front of the leg, right about here. Okay. So I'm gonna get my trim dynamic and just flatten this area. You see that? Okay, so now we want to put our obliques in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark off the crown of the hips, the crest of the hips right here. Separate my obliques from my abs. And abs aren't straight across, right? They're more like a fan. And again, I'm not worried about these shapes just yet. I'm just marking stuff in. All right. So I'm going to add a little bit of depression here because the abs do have their own plane changes as well. And if we look at it from the bottom, you can see it. You can see how this is puffing up a little bit too much. Knock that back. That right there. Smooth it out. So if we look at this chest, it comes out and then it comes out again. That's not the way a chest works. So I'm going to get my form soft brush and just go down the center. Now what I'm going to do is get this neck and I'm going to make it a little bit more cylindrical. And I'm also going to And add some more to the cheeks. Get my damp standard in. That in. And nasal fold right here. Then we have the nodes of the mouth on each side. Gives you that little dimple. And then just like the lips, the bottom part comes under. And that goes over. Have a little depression right here. Smooth it out. And if we want to make these lips, we just dip that down, bring those two together. Right? And then if we want a bottom lip, we just pull it out with our Form Soft or any other brush that you want to pull it out with. And smooth it out. And then make sure we have the dip in the chin. And make sure it's not totally sharp. There we go. Work in the jaw. Sternocleidomastoid coming here. Dig in the pit of the neck. Separate the Adam's apple from your sternocleidomastoid. And then there, smooth that out. And I'm going to see this curve right here. I'm going to fix that by making it straight. So now I'm going to separate the crotch from the legs. There's an empty space right here. Dig that in. And then dig a line right there. Smooth it out. Bring out the inside of the thigh. Smooth it out. Right. Fix that shape. And right there. Right. Now we're going to separate the obliques. From the lats and the ribs. Then I'm going to mark a line straight down the back, the base of the skull. Right, and we're going to pinch the front, bring out the back of the skull. Right, that's the shape we're looking for. Narrow towards the front, wider towards the back. Now these eyes, move them in a little bit. And we can mirror them. Now they're on the same line. There we go. Okay. right? So we can see all these body shapes and rhythms that we're hitting. Before, after. Ready? So the next thing we do is hit these calves and the feet as well. Let's fix the feet. So it's not a peanut, all right? The heel's gonna be pretty narrow. We're gonna carry that all the way up. I'm just trying to get the feet to point forward. So inward. And then you see this doot doot. I don't want that. I want to carry this line over. So flat, heel, peanut. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, right here where the clavicle is, right where it ends right here, we're going to mark this in and have it go into the ribs, right? So I'm going to get my form soft brush. I'm just going to take that in, continue that down, and then my erector muscles right here, smooth out. And just gotta separate the lats from the ribs. Right, and go right here to the tricep. Make sure that's knocked in. Right. And what I like to do is I like to get the hand and I like to have a clear break between those. See that ridge right there? I like to have that there. And then blend it in. Form soft brush. And smooth. Right. And you get that nice ridge right there, and it really makes it pop. Right, so back to the calf. All right, so you pull the outside out. If we look at the bottom, you can see where all the meat is. It's all on the inside. We actually need to pull that to the right and push it in. Smooth it out. Okay. Now I'm going to mark in the inside of the calf. And just going to go around the ankle bone right here. That's higher than the outside one. Go in between there. And then make sure that that peak right there is in the center and not off to the side. And then from here, we're just going to dig in a depression there in the foot. Right there. Just like that. Give him his Achilles heel. Smooth all this out. And so you can see how it's like, right? So I guess it's like that in the character. So we'll leave that. But I don't really like that. That's just my personal opinion. So move that over. And then we're going to block in the knee. So use my form soft. And then right across here be the inside of my thigh. So going to do that, right? Smooth it out. And then straight line up. Separate tendons right here, meniscus and all that stuff right here from your thigh. So what I want to do is I want to push in this hamstring because your lat comes over your hamstring and smooth it out. Okay. So I'm gonna smooth this transition right there. Okay. So that's kind of what we're looking for. So I would start there. The back I'm not going to go into because I already went into it on the other video. And if you need help on that, you can watch that one and it'll help you take it to the point of where I can make another video. All right. So that's what I would do for your character. And hopefully this helps. So let's snapshot this. Shift S. And we'll just Shift S. All right. Now we'll go to one that you had. All right. Shift S. All right. So you can see the difference, yeah? See the way the body on the left, how there's a rhythm, that there's all these shapes and forms. So you just got to make sure you hit those. And if you follow along with this video, you should be able to hit them pretty easily. All right. So hopefully this helps. Thanks.